Hello everybody, welcome to another Thursday Thinks. Today is all about life with an older horse. So hello and welcome to my Thursday Thinks. I'm Marianne and I'm the creator of Wilor, which is a source of information to help you to heal your horse mind, body and soul naturally. So I have the privilege of having in my care a 29-year-old horse, and up until a couple of years ago I also had an elderly miniature Shetland in my care as well. If you check out the YouTube channel, there's a video all about her. Her name was Princess, so go check that out. And she was almost 31 when I lost her, so I've currently got a 29-year-old, so I'm going to focus a bit on him, but perhaps I'll add in tips from her as well. Now obviously everybody's definition of an older horse or an elderly horse or geriatric, if you use that term, is different. When do you go from being an adult horse into an old horse? Like when you go from being a normal adult person to you're old and decrepit. What is the dividing line? Now I call the Major my old boy. He is my older horse purely because he's the oldest in my herd and he is 29. You know, that is getting on a bit in horse years. Some horses don't even make it that far, which is incredibly sad. But these things happen. People take care of them differently. They have various health issues. Let's not go into it. But so I class him as an older horse, whereas some people even call Midnight an older horse because she's 14, and I wouldn't call her that. So I'm not going to include her in this discussion today. So I'm going to just define my line as my old horse being the Major. So when you tell people, oh, I'm getting a, well, the Major was 21 when I got him, and everyone's like, oh, he's a bit old, isn't he? When I first got him, I was like, no, he's fine. And I got me thinking, why do people say that? Why do people go, oh, an old horse or an older horse? What is it that they're going cringy at? Is it the fact that they're older, so they're boring? Is it because they think that they'll have health issues? Or is it the fact that they are older, so you won't have them as long? So I've been thinking about it a bit recently and breaking down all those bits and pieces. So if I start with the last one, yeah, okay, if they're older, then it's yeah, you can pretty much say, yeah, they're not going to live as long as you would be if you, say, got a foal. But everything's relative, isn't it? With the proper care, the proper exercise, and just a really good life and a really good attitude about how you're caring for them, an older horse can actually live a lot longer than you think, and they can actually be in your life for a very, very long time. So I've had the Major, he was 21 when I got him, and he's 29 now. So that's 8 years. It'll be 8 years on the 10th of December that I've actually had the privilege of having him in my life. So yes, okay, you may not have them as long because they are older. So I can sort of see what people are getting at with that. But if you also think about they're older, so they must be boring. Depends really, because obviously an older horse has been through a lot. They've been there, they've done that, and sometimes that can be a very, very good thing. So if you've got a horse that is absolutely bomb-proof and nothing phases them and everything is fine, then that is an absolutely amazing horse to have, because all the groundwork is covered. You've done. You don't have to do it, so it saves you a lot of work, which is always awesome. But you've also got the flip side of it. You don't know what's happened in their past. You don't know what triggers they have. You don't know what bad experiences they might have received. So you're then in a little bit of a situation of, have they got an ingrained fear that's been there for a long time, and it's going to be hard to work them through it, to help them to get over whatever it is that's happened. And that can take a lot of work, a lot of time. Now, I've been quite lucky in the fact that the Major's personality is he's a confident introvert, so not much phases him. And if it does phase him, he doesn't really do much about it. He has a bit of an issue with bouncing trailers going past him, and I know that he has this issue, so I can turn and face him and I just go, look buddy, you're okay, you're okay, you're okay, it's gone past you, all right, and that's absolutely fine. And he's never truly really spooked at stuff while I've been on him. He's been wary of cows, but which horses aren't. So I've been quite lucky in that regard. But when you think about if a horse, say like Midnight, who's an unconfident horse in the natural state, the things she's been through is different. Now, I know I said I'd leave her out of this category because she's not an old horse, but she's a prime example. Say if she was a 29-year-old, she would have been through too much for her to be classed as a really good older horse. She would have, yeah. If you want to know more about Midnight, there's also a video on the YouTube channel about her, not to mention the number of times I've spoken to her about her on my Thursday Think. So there's a whole archive, go check those out. So there's a possibility that your horse might have an ingrained fear or bad habits that people have never worked through with them, so they might have those coming to you, especially if they've been having those for quite a while. They're ingrained, so you've got that slight issue. Or it might not be an issue, they might just be absolutely bomb-proof and everything's fine. So just put that to the side a minute. The other thing that people always say when you say, oh, I'm getting an older horse, or like they said to me when I said, oh, I'm getting the major, he's 21, and now he's 29. The first thing they say is, oh, but he's going to be old, that means he's going to have arthritis and digestive issues, and what about his teeth? And oh my god, the vet bills, and all the food bills. And you think, okay, let's talk about this then. Yes, okay, his teeth aren't that great. He hasn't got all of them. There are some missing. That is fine though. He sees the dentist once a year, as do all of my herd. And okay, he grows the odd spur on his teeth, but there's nothing to actually cause him any true issues. And I can tell when he needs the dentist, so it's okay. I see to him, it's okay. It's nothing different than any other member of my herd. As for medical issues, he doesn't really have any. Not to say that we haven't had them in the past. He had ragwort poisoning when I had him, not knowing it, but he did. And yes, he does have arthritis. But having him on the track system has really loosened him up. Not only that, I've been doing sort of like flexibility work with him, and the arthritis, you can't tell it's there. It's not really noticeable. And okay, he's got a little bit of a lazy gait, but he's always had a lazy gait. He's so chilled and laid back that energy, what's that? But having him on the track system, on the Paddock Paradise, he has limbered up. He has become more mobile. He's become bit more energetic, and you can see him marching about, which is absolutely beautiful. So from the arthritis point of view, having him on the track has been just perfect, and it's not an issue anymore. I used to be giving him glucosamine tablets. I don't anymore because he doesn't need them. He's good. The movement is all that he needs. But going on to illnesses, he also didn't really have many of those. He's only colicked once whilst I've had him, but that was more of an allergic reaction. He'd accidentally eaten something he shouldn't have, had a big allergic reaction, came up in hives and everything. It was a whole thing. So I wouldn't really say that he's had any real medical issues that have required the vet, other than the odd thing that you might have with your own standard horse, where you've had an allergic reaction, so oops, I shouldn't have eaten that, or he does react to his vaccination. So this year I haven't vaccinated him. There's no point really. He doesn't truly go anywhere. If I ride him, I don't really go too far with him. And if I do go far, it's just we don't meet other horses. He doesn't, yeah, and the rest of the herd is fully vaccinated, so they protect him. And the horses that I do know he meets, like the neighbours' ones, they're covered, they don't go anywhere, it's fine. So medically he doesn't really have anything either, and his feet are okay because he's got Helen, who sees him, who's the equine podiatrist. I did an interview with her, also on the YouTube channel, so that's not an issue either. Digestion is a different thing, purely because he is so inbred, it's not great. That's why I'm really not a fan of high breeding, because it's caused so many problems in that poor bloke. The reason he's lost teeth is because of his poor conformation in his mouth, which is down to his breeding. He's got poor digestion, which is also again down to his breeding. So him himself, I don't think he's actually that expensive to run. Now, that being said, he is on 4 buckets a day to keep the weight on him. This is where the expense does come in. So he is currently on Thunderbox hay cobs. He's also on the Thunderbox Ulcer X. Now the Ulcer X is because of his poor digestion, which is the result of his breeding. If he was Horace, who am I thinking of? If he was Egypt's age and he had the same digestion issues, Egypt would also be on it. Now Egypt is on it, but that's for another reason. That's medical issue. See previous Thursday things. So mostly he is on Thunderbox hay cobs as almost like hay replacer, because his digestion doesn't take in the nutrients properly, which means that he loses weight quickly if I'm not careful, don't watch it. So he's on that, and it's kept him really, really nicely. It's made sure he's had a good coat every winter. He does so well in the summer. It keeps the muscle on him, keeps weight on him. And that's all I need for it to do. So that's great. Also is a vehicle for me to get further nutrients into him. So he's also on the Thunderbox Daily Essentials, which is your vitamins and minerals. And if it's the summertime, I can also drop a little bit of turmeric in there, because he doesn't get a chance to get his face in their turmeric bucket, bless him. So I've come to an agreement with him about how much he has, and if he needs extra he tells me, and if he doesn't, that's fine. So the main expense for him is that his food, his daily intake of nutrients. Now, I know that some people have their older horse on old horse specific foods, but actually if you look into the different foods and the various nutrient needs that your horse needs, I don't find the older horse foods to be right. They've got too much in certain things and not enough in others, or they end up with beet pulping, which causes inflammation in older horses, especially those with arthritis, and it just makes me go, you can't have beet pulp. Makes me very, very opinionated. So I don't put much by the older focused horse feeds, which is why he's just on the plain Thunderbox hay cobs with the added daily essentials for his nutrients, vitamins and minerals, and it's done him wonders. So yes, there is the added expense, but the only added expense is just keeping the weight on him. And if I didn't have the rest of the herd, he would be on high quality hay all year round, and he would be able to have as much as he needs. Now, the reason that I haven't got him purely on hay is because there's 4 other horses, and they do shoo him about, which means he doesn't get the chance to have as much hay as he probably needs to intake for his body to truly benefit with the poor digestion that he has. But again, that is more his breeding than his age. And I actually find some of the older horses are the best. As I say, they've been there, they've done that. They know they're good, they're golden, everything's fine. And if you do have one that's got an issue, they've been there enough that you can work through things. And you can find the right person to help you with those things. Someone who knows what they're doing with somebody that's been through things for a very long time, or had this behaviour so ingrained for so long that it becomes a real thing for you to deal with. So I don't understand sometimes why some of the charities have issues rehoming some of the older horses, or they just rehome them as companions. Because the Major, if I just had him purely as a companion, I think he'd think I didn't love him anymore. Now, I don't ride him that often, but when I do, he absolutely loves it. You know, we usually go across the fields and he gets a cheeky nibble of grass as he goes past. But he has an opinion about when we should be going back and when we shouldn't. And sometimes if I turn him around too soon, he's like, no, we're going over there instead. Okay, buddy, that's fine. Now he does have an opinion about going out onto the road. He goes, nah, not today, thank you. And that's the thing about an older horse, because your attitude around them is a little bit different. You're like, oh, I won't push you too far. You know what you're doing, or, oh, we're okay. And yeah, if you will do that, that's fine. And while that's great to have that trust in your horse, sometimes it makes them a little bit cheeky. Now, the Major can get very, very cheeky. He can say, nah, Mum, I'm not walking all the way up this lane, so I'm turning back now, thanks. And you're like, buddy. And sometimes I'm like, I really, really should, make him do it. So that if there was an issue and I had to get him from A to B, that he would listen to me. Because sometimes I don't think he would listen, even as I was pulling on the bridle, pulling on his face and going, now I want to turn around. He'd be going, no, I'm going back, thanks, love. So sometimes it's a little bit of our own creation where we just let them get away with that a bit more because they're older. It's fine. It's okay. He needs the leisurely side of life, and sometimes that's not the greatest thing either. Like, I thought that as he got older he would go into retirement and I wouldn't touch him because he wouldn't want me on his back because it would ache. And I think that's actually the opposite. Sometimes I think the more that I leave him alone, the worse his back gets. Because I don't ride him in the saddle because he refuses to wear one. But he's quite happy to have a saddle pad with a psoas on it to hold it on, and we go off from me fine and dandy. So that means that I'm more or less sitting straight onto his back. And he's high withered, so it's not the most comfortable thing in the world. But we do it and he's happy. And I find that when I've taken the saddle pad off, he's actually got a very warm back. And I always massage my horse's backs after I get off them, whether they had a saddle on or not. It's a nice way to say, thank you. Can I check that I've not caused you any issues and that we haven't got any issues developing from me continually being on you with my wonkiness that I am trying to work on, children. But it's something that is just developing. So I think he likes that. He gets a warm presence on his back. I'm not particularly heavy, there's not much to me, so it's not as though I'm much on his back. I've been riding him so long that I know his stride, so it's not as though I'm bouncing or flapping about on his back. And at the end of it he gets a massage. Who wouldn't love that? And especially in the colder months, he can get quite drawn up in his back if I'm not careful. And if you think about it, some of the best performance horses, like Lepizanas and stuff like that, they do so much work well into their 30s that, are we doing a disservice by not working with our horses, doing activities with them when they're older? Surely keeping them mobile, keeping their muscles working, protects the rest of their body. It's something that I've had in my mind a lot recently, and something I said to Susie, my horsemanship trainer, and I said, I need to be doing a few more activities with him to get the back end engaged, to protect him a bit more, because that's where he slips. And I don't want him to cause himself a mischief in his back legs, because he slipped, because he's not got the musculature to hold his body properly if he's in mud or ice or whatever might be in the field. And she went, oh, that's a good idea. So we've come up with a little bit of a routine for him, not a routine, but a few activities for him which will help him to be just that little bit stronger. And if you think about it in the way of people as well, if you're an active person, you keep active into your dotage, you have a more comfortable life, whereas the older people who just sit there all day and do very, very little, they end up moaning about all these ailments. They're so uncomfortable constantly because their arthritis is bad because they don't move anywhere. Or their legs hurt because they've been sat down, they haven't used them properly. It's the same sort of principle, really. Keep them moving, keep your horses moving for their own health and welfare. Not to mention their own spirit as well, their mind and that connection. It's got to be very, very upsetting for a horse when you're going to be with them and doing activities with them every day, for you to then suddenly decide, you're a bit old for this now, I'll put you into retirement, and they go, but yesterday we were doing lots of stuff, what have I done? What have I done? And I have seen that a little bit with the Major, because I've been obviously working with Egypt and Pagan and Midnight and Little Spring, and he was used to having me to himself. Obviously that was before we also got the Grey Lady, but he's had a lot of me time, and that's been scaled back with me thinking of putting him to retirement and what that means. And yeah, so having an older horse, life with an older horse is very, very interesting. It's calmer than it is with younger horses because they know what they're doing, they know what life's about. It's a little gravy baby. Also, the bond with them is different. The bond with a younger horse, they're always asking you what they need to do, whereas older horse is just happy to be there, happy to spend the time with you. And they're not that much more expensive. They're really, really not. So something to consider if you're thinking about getting an older horse. If you haven't, why not? Why not? Give it a go, give it a think. And yeah, it's a real privilege compared to, say, just getting a middle-aged horse. You care for them in different ways, and it's just, the relationship you can build is just so different, and it's just amazing. So I think I'm going to leave that there today, everybody. I think I've gone on for a little bit longer than I intended to, but such is life. So if you haven't already, make sure that you're connected to the Facebook page, join the Facebook group, and check us out on Instagram, @Wilor, for virtually daily updates on the herd. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and click the bell icon to make sure that you get a notification about all future video releases. And I'm going to go and make a rum and raisin cheesecake. Daddy, I'm coming for it. I'll see you all next week. Bye.